it's Debbie, Nanny Debbie, and look, I've got some new books. This is Red Riding Hood, okay? And I'm going to start reading that story to you today because my cousin loaned me his fairy tale book. So I can start reading again. All right. Once upon a time there was a little village girl, the prettiest you have ever seen. Her mother loved her dearly, as did her grandmother. She had made her a little red hood which suited her so well that everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said to her, "Look, your grandmother is not very well. Go and see how she is. You can take her some cookies and this homemade jar of jelly." Well, Little Red Riding Hood left right away to visit her grandmother, who lived in another village. And as she was walking through the forest, she met a wolf. He would have liked to gobble her up on the spot, but he did not dare to, because there were some woodcutters nearby in the forest. He pretended to be very kind and asked her where she was going, and I must show you this photo of this wolf. Look at him trying to be a nice person to her. Actually, he's been got very nasty thoughts in his head, hasn't he? Can you see the woodcutters up the back there, just behind his ears, working on the trees? So he knew that if he attacked Little Red Riding Hood, they would come running after him. So he thought he'd better not do it. Anyway, he pretended to be very kind and asked her where she was going, and the poor girl did not know that it was dangerous to talk to him or to a wolf, and she didn't know stranger danger, and she said to him, "I'm going to see my grandmother to take her some cookies and a jar of jelly my mother made for her." "Oh, does she live very far away?" said the wolf. "Oh, yes," replied Little Red Riding Hood. "Her house is beyond the mill, by the first house in the village." "Well," said the wolf, "I would like to see her too. I'll take this road here, and you take the other road, and we'll see who arrives there first." Well, the wolf set off on the shortest path, running as fast as he could, because he's got 4 legs, and Little Red Riding Hood's only got 2, so naturally he can run faster. Anyway, he set off, and while the little girl went by the other longer path, he amusing herself, because she was just no hurry, she's gathering nuts and running after the butterflies and picking little bunches of flowers, so it didn't matter to her that it's going to take all day to get there. Anyway, it did not take the wolf very long to reach the grandmother's house. He reached up and knocked at the door. Tap, tap. "Who is it?" came a voice from inside. "It's your granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf, disguising his voice. "I have brought you some cookies and a jar of jelly my mother has made for you." Oh, the grandmother was so excited, and she was in bed, so she called out, "Lift up the latch and come in." The wolf lifted the latch and the door opened. Look what happened. There he is, lifting the latch. Oh my goodness. And at once he leapt onto the bed and ate up the poor woman in less than a second. Then he closed the door and laid down in the grandmother's bed to wait for the Little Red Riding Hood to arrive. A few minutes later she knocked at the door. Tap, tap. "Who is it?" came the gruff wolf's voice. Well, when she heard this, Little Red Riding Hood was a little scared at first, but remembering her grandmother was ill, she answered, "Well, it's your granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood. I've brought you some cookies and a jar of jelly my mother has made for you." The wolf softened his voice a little and called out, "Well, lift up the latch and come in." Well, Little Red Riding Hood lifted the latch and the door opened. And the wolf hid under the bed covers and said, "Well, put the cookies and the jar of jelly on the table and come and sit on the bed with me." The Little Red Riding Hood climbed onto the bed and stared at her grandmother. "Grandma, what big arms you have," she cried. "All the better to hug you with," the wolf replied. Look at him pretending to be grandmother. Look, it's even got her frilly night hat on. And there's his big arms, all the better to hug her with. Okie dokie. "And Grandma, what big ears you have, all the better to hear you with." "Well, Grandma, what big eyes you have, all the better to see you with, my little child." Grandma, what big teeth you have, cried Little Red Riding Hood. All the better to eat you with, barked the wolf, and throwing back the covers he leapt off the bed. And just as he was about to eat up the little girl, the woodcutter who had been in the forest burst into the cottage. With one blow of his axe he cut off the wolf's head, and nobody was ever troubled by that wicked creature again. So that's the story of Red Riding Hood. Okay? And I'll read you another story another time. Okay, bye-bye, children.